Okay, going to, as quickly as possible, draw the chisel based on the tutorial you were given in class, starting with creating a sketch in a part studio on the front plane. View normal to the front plane. Draw the side profile of the chisel, looking at our dimensions at 7.25 inches. Everything we'll do will basically be based on the dimensions of this and the origin of our drawing. Going to come up, over, over, down, and draw one more line up here. Now I'm going to assign some dimensions. Now this is 0.5. I know this is 0.25. I know this is half of 0.812 or 0.406. I know this is 0.187. And I know this is 1.687. I also know I've got a couple of key points where arcs and such occur, and one of those is at 4 inches to the left of the end, so I'll use the offset command to do it. Offset is one we use quite a bit in these drawings. I'll offset it again to the left at 3.5 inches. That's going to be two key points right here. Also, these two lines, I'm going to go ahead and make them construction lines because I don't need them to be part of the final model. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from here. Come on, line command. From here to here. And now I'm going to extend this line over because I know the line of the body from here and here is the same. So I'm going to use this command called extend to, which is a very useful command. I'm going to extend it over to here, and then this area right here I'm going to cut out because I don't need it. So I'm going to trim it away. And now I'm going to do the radius of this cut. And I look at my drawing, I see it is a 1.25 inch diameter circle. So I'm just going to draw that circle up here somewhere. And I've noticed this trick works really good for this particular drawing. I've tried it about 100 other ways, and so far I like this method the best. And if I come up with something better later, I'll do another video showing a better way of doing it. But for right now, I'm happy with this. I'm going to use the offset command, and I know that the distance from here to here is simply 1/4 of an inch because this is 0.25 and this is 0.5, so I'm going to offset this command, this line upwards by 0.25, and I'll drag this out where I can read all this a little better. Put that diameter up there, and all I'm left with is this little arc that I need from here to here. This arc needs to be placed from here down to here. So to do that, I'm going to cut this away using trim. I'm going to trim away everything I don't need except my arc. And now I'm going to escape the trim command. I'm going to define this point. Actually, let's do this point. Let's escape and select this point and this point, and let's make them coincident upon each other. And see how that moved that line down? It moved that piece of that arc down to here and created a surface in doing so. It closed this object. And with that being said, I don't need this little piece of line anymore, so I'm going to cut it out of the way, trim it out. And now I need to get this little section up here. Before I do that, I want to check my dimension right here one more time. Okay, it is 1.687. I don't know, I must have actually deleted the dimension line a minute ago. But anyway, let's get these where I can see them. Let's go ahead and constrain that again just to be sure. Same thing, just a slightly smaller circle. This circle has a radius of 0.5 or a diameter of 1, and I'm going to move it kind of up here, or better yet down here out of the way somewhere for a moment where I can work on it. I'm going to find that 6 o'clock point, go off to the right again, offset the bottom up, and I've got to be careful here. This time it's the difference between 0.406 and 0.25. I can just type it in as a subtraction problem here, and it will take care of the math. Or if I happen to have a calculator, I could punch it in myself. I find it works better to let OnShape do it. Saves from having to hunt a calculator, and you can also go back and adjust it if you need it. So I'm cutting away everything I don't need, and I know that this point here, so I'm going to hit escape. This point and this point need to coincide with one another. And now I'm going to trim away the internal parts that I don't need. So I'm shaping the outer profile of this chisel handle. Now I need to assign some fillet commands to assign a 0.06 radius here. And over here I need to assign a 0.09 radius. Okay, so I'm getting pretty well to the point where I think I'm about done with the profile. So I'm going to edit the name. I'm going to call it Sketch 1 Side Profile. And I might want to call it Chisel Side Profile. So if I'm looking at it later, I'll know what I'm looking at. Okay, now before I revolve things or extrude things, I tend to go to the isometric view. You don't have to, but for me it works. So anyway, I'm going to hit revolve now. I'm going to select this surface, and revolve axis is still red, so I'll click in that box and then click that line. And that gives me the preview of what it's going to look like. If I want to darken it in where I can see it better, I can play around with this slider, but at this point hit OK, hit check mark, accept it. And now I have my side view of my chisel. Okay, now the next part of the drawing is going to be to cut the blade out. We've got this big hunk of steel bar stock basically that we've at this point would have turned on a turning lathe, and now we've got to make this cut across it. At least we visualize in our head that way. And I look at my drawing and I see that from the one you were given in class anyway, I see that this was a 7-inch diameter circle, and I don't have that on this dimension yet, but if I were to dimension this little arc right here, it shows me it's 7-inch diameter. So anyway, so to create that, same trick we did earlier, I'm going to create a sketch on the front plane, and I'm going to draw a construction line right down the center. So basically I think this is I've got 3 drawings on top of one another, or 2 drawings at this point on top of one another. And I need to assign dimension 7.25 again. And I need a couple of key points defined. I need this line can be a construction line. I need that line offset to the left by the 4 inches. So tell it to the left, enter, 4 inches, enter. That gives me that point. And now I need to define the point right where these 2 lines cross, the top of the bar part of the chisel and the where the radius of this flare out starts. So I'm going to offset the center line once again. So hit escape, offset, go upwards 0.25. That gives me a crossing right here. And if I use my point command, I can assign a point or define a point right there. Now I need to offset the blade thickness. So once again, I'm going to use offset, and I know that it is 1/16 of an inch. So I type in 1/16. And these dimensions are getting kind of on top of one another, so I'm going to kind of drag this one out to the left a little bit, I guess, and drag this one off to the right a little. Since they're all construction lines, they won't interfere with each other. All right. Now, once again, the kind of the tricky part is I need a 7-inch diameter circle. So I'm going to draw the circle, assign the 7-inch diameter, and once again it kind of fell on top of what I was doing. So just get out of any command you're in, drag it by the center up here where you've got room to work. And we're looking at a piece of the arc down in this area here. So let's draw the line straight down, off to the left, and this time I'm going to offset my bottom line upwards by 0.5, no, 0.25, because it's the arc right in here, 0.25 down to the 1/16. So 0.25 minus 1/16 of an inch. That gives me that little piece of an arc segment that I need right here. So now I can use my trim command and start cutting things I don't need away. There's the little piece of the arc segment that I need. And once again, we will apply this trick of saying point and point to that point we previously defined and go coincident. And see what that did? It laid that arc right down on top of here, tangent to my blade line. Now I'm going to cut away some of this blade marking line back to right here, and then I'm going to turn this section of the blade construction line back to a solid, so it'll become part of a surface. Now, to do it in all in one step, I can also define the blade cut right here. I can draw a line out this way. I'm just going to let it kind of run wild for a second. And I can assign a dimension of 45 degrees to this. This could also be done as a separate step. I've played around with it both ways and it doesn't really matter. You just have to kind of have to cut away the proper things at the proper time. So what I need to do is cut away this little piece right here and this piece here to leave this shape here. Okay, now to finish my final cutting surface, I need to draw a line from here that's a solid line. I need to draw a line up, and I usually just go straight up, even though it could be on an arc, it doesn't matter. Down to here, down to this point right here, and I will have defined a surface that has the side profile including my 45-degree cut as part of it. Okay, and at that point I need to do a mirror image of my cutting surface plane that I've just drawn. So I get my solid line, my arc, my blade definition line. Oops, I hit the wrong one. I hit my center line, so I'm going to hit this one. Now be real careful, zoom in where you can see and get this one. I notice that defined another arc right here. Not an arc, another surface. Okay, so now we've got a surface defined, and I'm going to call this Sketch 2 Side Cut Profile. Okay, now to finish up our chisel, I'm going to do a remove extrusion once again. I'm going to select both of these surfaces, hit merge with all, and accept it, and I see that cut half of it away. And see it give me my chisel cut, my point, all in one shot. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select my side profile again, do another removal, reverse the direction so it cuts towards me. I see the preview and I see what's left of my chisel. I hit merge with all, and now we have our chisel. Looks pretty good. Okay, a very difficult thing to visualize is these curves, but we can see it now that we've drawn the 3D object of it. So anyway, now to finish up our project, we need to create the drawing. So I hit the plus sign, hit create drawing, choose the A template, I'll insert the part that we just drew, Part Studio for video. And it usually comes in at a different scale than 1:1. So once it's in place, double click it, come over here, select 1:1. Okay, make sure you hit the checkbox. Slide it over a little bit, give ourselves room. We're going to do the projections. So we're going to project to get this view, the view I guess from the bottom, same as the top since this is symmetrical all the way around. I'm going to do another projected view out to the left. So essentially this could become a top view, this becomes a side view. We could even put text and stuff in if we wanted to in here. We've got commands to do that up here. Dimensions, I'm not going to mention everything, just do a few key points to show you how to do it. To get my diameters, I can use the diameter dimensioning tool. It shows me the diameter. So I can do here and here. To get my radiuses for the dimensions that are shown as radiuses, it's the radial dimension tool, such as here. It's good for the fillets and the little curves. Be careful with this though, as it follows, the circle follows it, and sometimes you don't want that, so be kind of careful with that. Linear dimensions are real simple. 2-point dimensions, I could pick the line here and the tip of the chisel point here to get my overall length. Now the detail view down at the bottom, that's also automatic. It's done right here with this detail view command right here. Come over here and check on the, click on the very tip of the chisel, put a little circle around the area you want to zoom in on for a detail view, and then drag the detail view wherever you want it. I'm going to put it down here because it's a sort of an empty area of my drawing. We need to get the chisel's thickness dimensions, so I can do it on the detailed view right here. So I could do it here, drag it off to the left. I need the angular dimension. This is about the only really tricky one here. These angular line-to-line dimensions. We've got to show this as a 45-degree cut somewhere or another, and we don't have a vertical line to reference it to. So I'm just going to reference it from this line to this line and let it come out the side. That'll get the point across. It lets somebody see that it's a 45-degree cut. And you would need to finish up your major points here and here, and a couple of dimensions, the circular, the diameter dimensions here, which once again that's pretty straightforward. Then to finish up for your assignment, come down here for your drawing, put your name in here. Always hit the check box. Whatever project it is, in our case probably project 1, and watch these little dash lines. They tend to not go away when you want them to. Their default text, and that finishes our assignment. To print it out, come up here to the little menu command, hit print. Typically I'm going to want a Microsoft XPS document, so when you hit print it brings up a printable version of it. Looks pretty good. Hit print, change to the Microsoft XPS document writer. Fit to page is fine for what we're doing. It might not be if you're doing this for production, but for what we're doing it's plenty good. Hit print. I'm going to hit cancel, and that concludes our video.